a sense of acceptance and a sense of bringing you in rather than pushing you out. There was a sense of breaking the hierarchy which I grew up with, which if you weren't at the very top, you were a peon. And you should thank God that you were even allowed in. Whereas there's a very different feel in the religion that I'm involved in, which, although I'll tell you, when I told the rabbi that on the holiest day of the year, when they open the Holy Ark and they show the sacred texts, I told her that what I saw was the Ark was totally on fire, and there were flames coming out of it, and the holy writing was absolutely just brilliantly coming out at me. And I said, and that's probably from experiencing the mushrooms. And she just looked at me like, I don't believe you. And I said, well, maybe it was fasting that did it. But I said, I can't wait for the Ark to be open because I just am so stoned at looking at it. I have to talk to her more about that. Anyway, did you find it with Julieta that there was a difference that you experienced that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah. Grandmother Julieta, I call her Julieta. I've known for 25 years, and to have her here in Telluride was just the greatest treat. I first knew her when we invited her to come to give a workshop at the RIM Institute in Arizona. And she stayed at our house, and she did ceremony with us. And it was the first time she'd been out of Mexico. And in fact, when I went to pick her up at the airport, she was hugging all of the what do you call them? Not the stewardesses, but not the airplane. she was hugging the people the immigration people. Okay, so anyway, so since then she is totally grown, and now she's one of the 13 indigenous grandmothers, and she travels around to see the Dalai Lama, and she goes here and she goes there, and she's very sophisticated now. But she still does the ceremonies the same way, and they are very, very holy. I went to after I left, after we parted 25 years ago, I had to go find her again. So last year in Mexico, I went down to Oaxaca and then up into the Mazateca Mountains to find Julieta. And I did find her, and I was with her for about 15 minutes when she said, I've got ongas, do you want to have a ceremony? And I said, well, sure. So that night, she did ceremony with us. And it was so beautiful because she expands her whole way of doing ceremony. And this may be the difference between the males that I know of, and including Terrence McKenna that I've been with, and so she opens it out. She brings in many levels of Christianity, and she has this beautiful room with lots of flowers and candles and pictures of Jesus and pictures of saints, and she has a way of speaking to them and having them speak through her during the evening, and it's very big, it's very expansive, and so for me that sense of the feminine that is able to bring in, as you said, Gary, expand and bring in was very, very apparent. So I feel very lucky that I got to experience her at the beginning of her teaching to the gringo world, and teaching again this last year when she came here. From the beginning to the end, she was holy in it, very, very holy and very healing. So that may be, I'm sure it's true of men too, but I just haven't been with them. I've been with Julieta.
Did you see this last year? You were there, weren't you?
Yeah. I was there and watching probably with my Buddhist conditioning, which is not always helpful for open. I mean, the idea is I should be all open, but I still get the next frame of references. So I was really impressed by the sincerity. She did this ritual and how you could see, I mean, she was completely there in what she was doing, and I don't know how the communication translates to everybody out there, you know, because it's somebody doing a ritual does not necessarily connect the people watching with the ritual. Everybody got to do their own part, and it was new to me. I never seen such a ritual, and I was very impressed by it, and I wished I would have understood more. So part of it is also maybe for me I was surprised by the Christian element, you know, and I mean I wished I would have encountered that Christianity growing up, you know. That would definitely have been an aspect of Christianity I could have absorbed much easier than, you know, Lutheran frugality and maybe pantheistic, you know, God is in everything, which was pretty acceptable in that way already, but. I think there's general gender in religion. It's just the male game is so hierarchy focused. I mean, you know, they say 99% of chimpanzee actions are oriented into defining the place in hierarchy. And I had my easy way out. I said, oh, I don't play the hierarchy game. And then it took maybe 10, 15 years and I realized, oh, that's a nice way to put yourself on top of the hierarchy game. I'm no part of it, you know, it's your game. So I think it's just part of the male thing that we have this hierarchy thing, and it's so hard to break out. And you know, money, prestige, knowledge. You know, it's all still hierarchy and defining us. And it seems that females have a much easier time not to be caught in the hierarchy game. And you know, and I look into Tibet, how there's all these famous big lamas. I mean, the world has changed there, but still, it's all the hierarchy games. They get the big thrones, and there's women of wisdom hiding out in these really humble, simple places who I think just have as much insight, but they don't play the hierarchy games. And some people realize that, and they find their way to that, and others just, you know, it got to be high thrones, titles, brocade, and I think that's definitely a male-female issue there.
If you want to contribute to this because you weren't here last year and you passed, but maybe you'd like to take it in a different direction because I don't want to be the alpha male here saying this is how it's going to go and I'm going to tell you the first thing and now here's the second thing and you know and you want to fight and kind of thing.
One more sentence, and I think, you know, male and female, it's not that any of us is 100% male or 100% female. You know, we all have these both poles in us, and it's really about finding them and being all right with it, embracing it, and realizing when the male part comes through. And sometimes it's great fun playing with it, but it's often out of place, you know. Oh, please don't get me
Is there, in talking about visionary mushrooms, is there some other area that you'd like to bring up that, from your perspective, that we're missing or that you feel would fill out what we're talking about here? Through literature, through you know what you know, because you have a vast experience in what you've been putting together over the past 10, 15, 20 years that you might like to share with us in terms of, you know, visionary mushrooms, where they fit into the whole corpus of mushroom forays, that here we're trying to do something so different in ways you don't get this at other mushroom forays, where all you do is name mushrooms and argue about the names and get really upset at someone who rejects your name, and then you eat mushrooms. And then you find out the next morning, you know, who got sick that night, and that's the foray, and you know, and it's a repetitive behavior, and it's bizarre, and yet we do it over and over again at some of these forays, and this is something that is totally different in a way. Do you see that here, or do you see us as just a marginal variation on a pattern? Because you've gone to lots of forays over the years, and this is your first Telluride.
Yes, well, now that I lost my Telluride virginity, I can talk about my experience as president of the Connecticut Westchester Mycological Association. And really, Gary is pretty much right on the mark about the kind of competitiveness of naming that is, to me, a large source of irritation. But I was always, and because of that context, I was always happy that our mycology club was located in Connecticut, where psilocybes were not in great profusion, because I was always worried about the legal liabilities of people finding them, and I didn't have to worry about that. It wasn't a worry, because we didn't have psilocybes there. So we just concentrated on haggling over the names at Forays. But what I'd like to do, if you wouldn't mind, Gary, is to turn this in a bit of a different direction with regard to the Johns Hopkins studies that you have talked about at this particular festival and previously, because it's something that really